Hello and welcome to the Lost Rewatch. We're all here. We got Daryl, Bill, and Karen. How's it going, guys?
Hey.
Good.
Great, yeah.
And we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the finale. Is what, tomorrow, May 23rd?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's some part. It seems like it's been longer than 10 years, but
Yeah.
I can almost remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
But Daryl, this is your first time on here, so we want to hear your Lost story and how you got into the greatest TV show in the history of television.
Yeah. Well, so I remember watching like the commercials, the teasers that ABC was putting out for the show, and I thought this thing looks really good. I think I'll check it out. So my wife and I tuned in for the pilot, and were instantly hooked. We weren't really big TV watchers. We're still not really, and we certainly never made sure we were in front of a TV on the couch at a particular day and time. But Lost, for us, did that. And so every Wednesday, except for season 1, episode 4, my son decided to be born on that day. So we missed the whole walkabout reveal with John Locke. We had to catch it later, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is that.
Well, you had something more important. I mean,
my son's more important, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, no, we were hooked instantly. I got massively into online forums and message boards, the ABC forum, and eventually there was another forum I was into, and somewhere somebody mentioned podcasts. I think that was around season 2 of Lost when podcasts started popping up, and I just dove into those big time. Listened to you guys, you and Jay and Cliff and Stephanie, Ryan and Jen, of course, the official Lost podcast, and would sit around the office every day after new episodes aired. We didn't get any work done for the first 2 hours. We just talked about Lost. And so then that turned me into J.J. Abrams fan. That was the first time I didn't watch Alias, so I didn't know who J.J. was before, but that turned me into a massive J.J. fan. So then when Fringe came around, we started the Fringe podcast, and that just got me into podcasting in a whole different way. And so here I am 12 years later, still hooked on podcasting.
Nice.
It really was the first show that the TV show and social media got to meld.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
I don't think it's been matched since.
No.
No. Fringe came close in some ways, and Fringe was kind of lightning in a bottle too for a lot of reasons, but not like Lost. Lost is still the king of them all.
It definitely, social media still enhances a lot of the TV shows. So
yeah, for sure.
The legacy of that still is there, but you can't recreate the first time. So.
Now, and could you imagine where if Lost had come out today, the way social media is now, where you have so many different. I mean, there's so many things I don't even know what they are.
Right.
But it just like you said, Bill, Lost changed everything. It just changed the game. It changed the way I think they promote TV shows, and because I don't think they knew what to do with podcasting when it first came out. It's like who are these guys? They're talking about our show, and
but give it up to ABC for having the foresight to do their own podcast. I mean, that's still something that a lot of networks are unwilling to do.
Yeah.
And to embrace podcasting, to engage their fandom through podcasting. And so to think that they were doing a podcast on their show way back then is really incredible.
Yeah, I know. We did Leftovers, and they would send us gifts. Yeah. HBO would send us gifts once a month. We're going, okay. Yeah. I mean, it was nothing elaborate, but it was ABC never sent us anything.
Yeah. Each network was different. Fox was good with us, but when NBC picked up Revolution, and it was a Warner Brothers show, but it was on NBC. No, we had this great relationship with Warner Brothers and Fox, and NBC was we were starting over from scratch. They didn't care about anything we had done with Fringe and Fox. It was weird.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? It is what it is. But anyway, we're here to talk about 2. I thought they were great episodes.
Yeah.
I'll just spoil you guys ahead of time. Usually we wait till after, but I and also we'll start with the Brig. You obviously had 2 great actors in Michael Emerson and am I drawing a blank on Terry O'Quinn? I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Josh Holloway steals the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But anyway, go ahead.
It was amazing.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I love is this episode starts where we're really starting 8 days before where we're really going to get our other
Right.
going, and that was really cool because you always had to pay extra attention when we had those types of episodes. 8 days, 16 days, we're going back and forth, 48 days. So I thought that was great. But we're having this reveal of this magic, that the island is a magic box. We've gotten a little bit of tidbits about that, and we find out that really it's John Locke who brought his father there to the island.
Right.
Ben is specific in saying to him, you brought him here. And I found it interesting that, Locke wants to be taken to Jacob. And he doesn't get taken to Jacob, he gets taken to his father. So I thought that was a nice thing to say, well, I'm not going to take you to Jacob. We got to go see what you took out of the magic box. So
Right.
So here's poor Locke again, carrying that baggage of his dad and his daddy issues and the pain he carries with him, and obviously couldn't let go of him even there. And lo and behold, now he still has to carry this baggage here on the island, where he thought he was free of those things. But the island doesn't let you escape those things. The island makes you confront those things, and you have to find a way to deal with it and let go of it. So there we go. So, but from there, what do you guys think about that? That now we know it's John really who brought his father there.
Right. And his father is saying, we're in hell. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but
Right.
Notice how hot it is here.
Right. But the thing is that that Ben tells Locke that he has to, as a gesture of like free will, he has to go and commit and commitment. He has to go kill his father. He has to kill him off. And that's going to prove something to the island and to Ben and to his people. And I think that's awesome, but Locke can't do it. He doesn't have that fortitude to do it. He can't do it. So what does he do? Lo and behold, he gets a loophole handed to him from Richard Alpert. There's a loophole. I'd like to hear your guys' thought about this loophole and where it comes from and what he does with that information.
Yeah, I mean, I never really took Ben seriously that Locke is the one that brought Cooper to the island. I always took it like it was another one of Ben's lies, that Ben was looking for any way to leverage to keep his power. And in this case, John Locke was his greatest threat of power. And he knew that John Locke's greatest weakness was his relationship with his father. And so when they put all those dossiers on all the people from 815 and found out what they could about John Locke, in my mind, he immediately started having people tail Anthony Cooper just in case, because there was something from, minute one that was very special about John Locke. This guy was in a wheelchair. Now he can walk. So people are going to think he's special because Ben's big brain all the time. Like that was our favorite phrase watching it with our kids. We just finished a rewatch and we just kept every time Ben would do something, it's like, there goes Ben being big brain again. Exactly. And so in his big brainedness, yeah, whatever. He knew to have Anthony Cooper on standby. They wrecked him. They brought him to the island, but then he starts manipulating Locke, telling him, "You brought him here. This is all on you. You have to kill your father. You have to prove yourself." And yeah, we see that Ben killed his own father in order to kind of take that next step into ascending to, the leadership of the others. But there's nothing that demands that Locke has to do that. It's all just as we see a ploy to get Locke embarrassed, so that there's that doubt, and he can use that doubt to maintain power. It's
and
really good
Ben
stuff.
was never going to cede leadership of the island. He was never going to cede that.
Right.
Richard told John the others, though, saw John as a savior. So Ben was like, no, that's not happening. So he played Locke this whole episode, just played him all along.
Right.
You knew that because when Ben walked out of that cabin at the end, his face was just drawn like shock, because that's when the game ended for Ben.
But as much as you guys are right that this was all Ben having his leverage, and it definitely was Ben making sure that he never relinquished his role as the leader. Yes, that's because Ben is a manipulator and a game player and liar and all that. But to some degree, he was able to use all those things to get into John's head, because John believed that the island required sacrifices. It required, the island presented things to you that you needed to confront. Charlie needed to beat his addiction, and the island would give you something in return. And, so they were, Hurley needed to stop eating all the, junk and get control of that. And the island brings them more food. So John already knew those things, that the island does do those things, but Ben totally played on that.
Yeah.
So,
already sacrificed food.
Right.
Right.
But he gets this loophole information about killing his father, because he knows he can't do it, and apparently Richard Alpert knows he can't do it, and Ben knew he was never going to do it.
Right.
But he recruits Sawyer to do it.
He recruits James. Is that the first time
James, yes. He recruits James, but the interesting thing is how he gets this information, and now he knows he can use James, because now he knows what James's issue is with Anthony Cooper.
Yeah.
So we can use that information. So really, in a way, John Locke played a whole game with James, with Sawyer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He played the whole mind game, manipulating, and got him to do something. He conned him into killing Anthony Cooper. Yeah. So where it relieved Sawyer of that burden himself by ending that emotional burden and putting an end to the Anthony Cooper trauma, Locke he didn't unburden his own self by killing his own father, and now he just conned somebody else. Mm-hmm. So there's that John not knowing the right direction to always take.
Yeah, that's typical John. Once we saw the episode, I can't remember what it's called, but it's where he's with Eddie the cop, and he's a hunter, or he's a farmer, not a hunter, right? And when Eddie told him that, it was just like, to me, that was the definition of Locke throughout the entire series. Mm-hmm. That's what got him killed. That's what got him played. At times he takes things too literally, like when he puts his father on his back and takes him into the camp, but then other times not literally enough. When Jacob told him that he needed to move the island, then Ben manipulated him into saying, well, he meant that I need to move. If Locke had moved the island, that would have saved so much trouble.
Right.
And, so he never could. He was always getting manipulated. He was never able to carve his own path and be the leader he dreamt of being.
He always wanted to be something else. Okay. In the episode that we do learn about Locke later on, spoilers, people who haven't caught up to that, but come on, it's been 15 years. Yeah. In the episode where we learn about Locke, remember when he's a kid in school and he gets locked in the locker, and the guidance counselor and the teacher or whoever that was trying to tell him, you can't be the football player, you can't be the prom king, you can't be the superhero. Sometimes you are what you are. You're the scientist. But the kid fights back into him and says, no, I like boxing. I like cars. So he wanted to be always something else.
Right.
And I get that, because as we're growing and learning about our lives, we try to put ourselves in places that you hope that you fit in. Mm-hmm. But John was never going to be those things.
Right. Always, tell me what I can't do. He was always
right. But he always had trouble finding his way.
Yeah.
He was never going to be a great leader.
No.
He just didn't have it in him. But Locke, I always thought Locke's problem was, you could see how his dad treats him. Even in this episode, he bites him. Locke has a knife to his throat. He's still insulting him. Yeah. That Locke wanted just to be loved and wanted. Am I special? I just want to be accepted.
Right.
And he never was, especially by his mom and his dad. Helen left him because, and I still think she was working with Anthony Cooper. But anyway, but I just look at Locke, and he's, like you're saying, Karen, he always wanted to be something different. Like if he was given this, he'd want this. It was always something more. And he was given a second chance at life. He was able to walk again in an environment that he trained for.
But that's why in the episode that Daryl's talking about is he's told by the kid there that, you're a farmer, and he's like, no, I'm a hunter. So he was insisting, I'm a hunter. But at his core, that may not be who he ever was.
Right.
But the one thing John was on the island was he was the one still, and I'll stand by this until my last breath. John still, with all his faults and his, again, taking 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, struggling and all that, still knew that he and Jack and the others were on the island for a reason, and they should have never left until it was time to leave. So that I will always take with me no matter what, because he may have been bubbling in other ways, but he knew they shouldn't have left, because the island was going to provide them with what their growth and needs were.
But the reason they didn't listen to him, because he's not a leader.
Right. So
his approach was always wrong.
Right.
It was.
I think the funny moment was when he threw that knife into the airplane chair.
Yeah.
And he was pretty much a sap before then his whole life.
Right.
But when he took that knife and says, we're going to hunt.
Right.
He was a different person from that point on.
Right.
And you wanted in this episode, right? That's the Locke that we all wanted, but we never really got. And you think back to when he had that encounter with the smoke monster about that same time, when he's out there, and what he thought was the island telling him that it was his destiny was really him just getting manipulated by the man in black.
Yeah.
Right. But
that changed his course forever.
Yeah.
Right. But we do realize too with John's evolution through these few days that we see him go through, I think it's 8 days or something in this episode, that he does come to a realization at the end that he is on his own path. He realizes he is separate from the rest of the castaways, and now he has to walk his own path. Yeah. So at least that revelation for him comes to the surface.
Yeah, I really like that about him. I felt like that showed strength on his part, but also naivete. I also was really surprised when Sawyer does the deed and Locke walks in. There's never an ounce of regret or remorse on Locke's face at any point. Sawyer, you see that burden just rush off of him, and he can't handle it. He goes and he vomits, and this is a pivotal moment in his life. Both of these men have a turning point in their lives at this point. They have both been unchained by the death.
Right, they were both imprisoned. Yes,
and now him getting killed with chains was so poetic.
In some way, exactly. In some way, now they're both out of prison from him.
But John never expresses any type of care.
He thanks Sawyer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is unexpected, because again, I've just called him a weakling, basically a gullible weakling, and yet he shows strength and solidarity in his choice in this moment, because he does believe it's truly what his destiny is.
But let's talk about Sawyer actually seeing Anthony Cooper. He gets conned by Locke to actually go to the ship, so you guys talk about that amazing scene of him reading his letter. It was so heart-wrenching. Did you not really just get so choked up feeling for this man who's finally unburdening himself?
Yep.
Well, you can see it in the act, like I said, the acting of Josh Holloway, where he's not even saying anything, and he's just the emotion he's giving, and you feel like you say you feel it. You're like, okay, this is 30 years or whatever, however old he is, built up, anger towards a man that destroyed his life. And he wanted revenge in the worst way, and he just read the letter. Just read the letter. Yeah. And of course, Anthony Cooper is a jerk from just read the letter. Anthony probably would have still been alive. But
he gave himself up real good. Yeah.
I don't know.
But to Anthony, it was just another con. It was nothing to him, and that's the difference. Is a con man has no conscience. It doesn't matter to them. Yeah. So to them, it's like your mother's Mary and your father killed him. Like, what do I care? That was just another con.
Yeah. Your dad overreacted.
Yeah, exactly, which is horrific.
He had 10 con names.
Yeah. But But Anthony, in this, before he gets chained to death, is actually explaining, or from his perspective, of how he actually gets to the island, which I found was very interesting, and what he thinks the island is.
Yeah.
And I, what are your guys' thoughts on that? That he actually tells how he gets to the island, or he remembers part of it, and then what he thinks the island is.
Well, he already thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
Right. He thinks he's in hell. Yeah.
Right.
I love this because this is, I mean, there's so much in this episode and the next one we're going to talk about that fully get answered. For the Lost ended and didn't answer all of our questions. I'm one of those guys that doesn't care. I love the ending anyway. But you can't say that about what we get in this episode. They revisit and answer so much of what we first saw in this episode. But in this case, people are wondering, are they in hell? I think they all died, or they're in purgatory. And they're kind of hitting that face on. You're not in hell. We'll face it again, when we see Abby Turno. When Albert is, I'll show you you're in hell, and Jacob takes him to the water, and he's like, you can't die if you're already in hell, right? And so that's kind of what we get here too. You're not in hell. But what I really loved was, he says, if we're not in hell, where are we? And that's the same question that we've been asking, or Charlie was asking. We still haven't gotten that one answered yet. Right. Kind of funny.
Definitely, the arc of the show is taken off now. The second half of season 3. I mean, it's just totally, it's an upward swing now.
This is the launching point. They had their end date, and they could really go forward with the show. The first half of this season is kind of, good spots. Trisha Tanaka is great. And Flash It Before Your Eyes is great. But from here,
and like you said, Daryl, they're talking about what we want to hear about.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah,
they get to the point. But my favorite moment on the Black Rock in this episode was when the casual moment of Danielle walking in. Hi, Danielle. How are you? Oh, I'm good. Just here for some dynamite. All right.
Just dynamite.
Be careful with it.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good night.
Yeah, and that's a nice payoff we're going to get in His Greatest Hits, or in Through the Looking Glass. We get that paid off, but it's almost a nothing scene that adds a lot of humor into a really heavy scene, but then also gets paid off.
The whole casualness of it.
Yeah. I love the way too that Sawyer, his moment has come. He's met the Tom Sawyer. And he just casually pulls. He's been waiting for this moment for all. He goes Phil Collins and just pulls that letter out of his back pocket. And he's ready. He's rehearsed this so many times, and he doesn't hesitate. Like, he's like, my moment is here. I'm trained for this. I'm good to go. But the way he just casually pulls that letter out of his pocket, pulls it out of the envelope, tosses the envelope, and pulls it out. I don't know. He owned the moment, and he was ready for it. And I just felt like that was really cool. The way he just kind of it was almost like a gunfighter just pulling his pistol. He's ready. He's been training for this.
Well, I like the whole way. Here, you said Ben manipulated. Locke manipulated Sawyer. Yeah. The whole time he's like going, "We're going to take him back. We're going to take him back. We're going to take him," because he thought it was Ben. We're not going to kill him.
Right. I'm not killing anybody. Yeah, I'm not killing anybody. He says.
Yeah. But then Sawyer goes, "Well, what about the Locke goes? What about the guy in Australia?" Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoops.
Oops. We said that at the exact same time. But and like Daryl said, and Bill, we saw this guy. He finally eliminates and liberates his burden of Anthony Cooper, literally, and purges after it's done and gets it all out. But now he's free of that. Now he doesn't carry that burden. He does not carry that burden anymore. Where on the other hand, even though Anthony Cooper is dead, John Locke is still always going to have that burden of I really still can't let go of the daddy issues yet. So the daddy issues.
You got to give Locke. Let's say his dad stole his kid and he threw him out a window, abandoned him as a young child, or the whole. I mean, you can see why Locke has issues.
Of course, it's just going to take him longer to find his way along the path.
Whereas Sawyer became a completely different character.
Yes,
he became more likable.
So
definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that burden was lifted.
We have to give Anthony Cooper credit because he saved Locke's life by taking out his kidney. We'll see that in the next episode. Right?
Yes, that's true.
Right.
That's what he was doing. He was a caring father, preparing
He knew
his son for the difficult future ahead.
That's foresight. Yep.
So Locke should be thanking him.
Right. Yeah, it's not killing him. Come on.
So the bottom line, though, with Locke is what he always wanted was his Sally Field moment. You know, you like me. You really like me.
You really like me.
That's all he
That's
wanted.
true.
The whole
Yeah,
life.
that's true.
Yeah.
But as far as the castaways go on the beach side, we could already start to see some tension going on over there too. So
Right.
they have their own tensions going over there. You're starting to see now groups and sides kind of starting to present themselves, and division. So that part's interesting in itself. But with what's happening still with Ben and Locke and the whole deed of trying to prove his commitment to the island and everything, at this point, we don't know where Ben is taking his people. Where are they going?
Right. Yeah.
They're just traipsing along and building tents and taking them down. And, where are they going? So that was quite curious because we're like, where could you go? You're on an island. How far could you go?
Right.
Little do we know there's many places.
Do you think when everyone was making a big deal about Locke being there, the others, that Ben had said something to, hey, treat this guy like a king, just to bring him down when he couldn't kill his dad?
Yeah.
I think they just knew that this man survived a fall and couldn't walk and can walk. So I don't think Ben even needed to over-explain anything, probably, because again, Ben was so crafty in how he handled people and how he handled his leadership that he never offered too much information. He never, so I don't think he even had to set up his people that much.
Right.
Because I think he knew Locke was going to fail anyway.
Well, and
I
I
got
think
the real
that
story from Richard. I mean, the comforting part of the whole thing is you can believe Richard. At least I did when Richard talks, and he said to Locke, "These people heard that you didn't used to walk, and now you walk.
Right now you walk."
They believe in him. So,
and I think too that we've seen how he manipulated Juliet and Goodwin and a few others, but I don't think that those were the only people that he manipulated. I think that, he even said, I have to give them the illusion, like when Locke blew up the submarine, I had to give them the illusion that they can leave. They know how manipulative he is. And I think that they're probably tired of being oppressed in that way. If there's this miracle guy who could be the chosen one, and remember, Alpert's had these experiences with Locke that we're not privy to at this point in our storytelling. And so, I think that they were probably excited that Ben's time on the throne might be coming to an end.
They were ready for a new leader.
Yeah, I think so.
And plus, you also had Ben was upset that Locke comes on the island. Right away he can walk again, whereas Ben has a tumor and has to have it removed by Jack.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that
he's in a wheelchair at the beginning of this episode.
Right.
Yeah, so poetic, isn't it? And do we agree that Alpert is the one that stole the tape recorder and gave that tape recorder to Locke? Like Locke wasn't smart enough to lift that off of Ben. Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Richard gave it to him.
Okay, that's been my working theory too. Like Richard later says, "No, I thought you gave it to Tom." I've always felt like Richard lifted that off of Ben.
Right.
Okay.
I would agree. Because how would Locke know there was a tape recorder?
Well, he walked in while Ben was listening to it, but I just don't see
That's
where
true, yeah.
he would have really been crafty enough or had the ability to.
Plus, he didn't care.
Yeah, maybe not.
He just cared
He
about
didn't know
Jacob.
what it was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But again, would show that Alpert is trying to undermine. I mean, it's obvious that Alpert's trying to undermine Ben, but that's just another example of it.
Yeah. And Karen, you started mentioning the other Losties that we have where Jack's not trusted.
Right. They don't
Nobody's
trust Jack.
I mean,
They
Saeed,
don't trust him.
who was like this with Jack, now doesn't trust him. And I think they have. I think they have a right.
Right. When he came back from being on the other side of the island, he was a little different.
Yeah, he had another with him.
Yeah, well, that didn't fly very well.
But they don't tell him about Naomi. She's there, and she probably needs medical attention. He's a doctor, but they just don't trust him.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about Locke not being a good leader. I'm in the camp that Jack's not really a good leader either.
No.
He got almost everybody killed. But these two examples that we're talking, or these two episodes we're talking about tonight, are really prime examples of that. Like Juliet's like, tell them, Jack. And he's like, no, not yet. I'm not going to tell them. And then in the next episode, he says, I didn't tell you because I hadn't decided what to do yet.
Right.
And he always takes on this idea that he is the only one that can make decisions.
Well, he's in control. He's a control freak.
Absolutely.
He is a control freak.
And then his plan that he comes up with is they have to ditch it anyway because it won't work in the end. Like we won't be talking about that tonight. But like if he would just communicate, bring in a small council maybe or something like that, things would have been so much better. He's not a good leader either.
Well, to be fair to Jack, he didn't want to be the leader.
That is fair.
I think he knew his I think he knew his shortcomings.
I don't know. I don't know that maybe he knew what they were, but he certainly didn't come to terms with them.
No, he didn't. No.
At least not in this. Well, not even.
No.
I think at the very end of season 6, he finally did.
Yeah.
When everybody was dead.
But yeah,
because it takes as long as it takes.
But that's the problem with this. This problem with all these people. They don't communicate. They don't they don't share information that everybody doesn't trust.
Right.
It's like when Syed found out that Kate told Jack about why would you do that?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, why do we tell Kate anything?
Or Hurley.
Or Hurley, yeah. Well, I thought Hurley was smart to go get Syed.
Yeah.
I think Syed's a level-headed person. He does things. He thinks
He would
things
have
out.
been a good leader. Syed would have been a great leader.
Would have been a great leader, but they wanted Jack.
Yeah.
The doctor.
Yeah.
Anything else in this episode you guys want to talk about? The Brig?
I just thought it was a great episode. Great setup for where we're coming into the next episode.
Yeah.
Because we learn a little bit about con men and how people tick, and it brings us into the next episode.
Yeah.
This is a great one. First, Ben Linus flashback.
Oh,
we get
yeah.
context on why he had to kill his father, why he told John that in the previous episode. So, and again, stuff that's brought up that's going to echo throughout the rest of the series.
Yep.
Really
And
good.
Ben, and Ben's mom is actually his wife.
Yeah. all the good cowboys have mommy issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really Kelly Preston's fantastic in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like that because Ben always says he was born on the island, so we find out he wasn't.
Right.
And then his dad obviously. I don't know if I'd take my pregnant wife out hiking at 7 months, even at 7 months. I don't know if that's a good idea, but Roger Workman, he does, and they run it when he runs out. He runs into Horace. Was that a coincidence or just the way?
I never mistake coincidence for fate. I don't know.
Apparently, Portland's only less than a mile big, so you're going to run into you only have this little window.
And it's so telling. Like Horace pulls up, how's the baby?
Right, that's right.
Fine, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's like from moment one, he does not care about his son.
Right.
And I can understand his wife is in grave danger, like for sure. But it's a brand new born child. You should be equally concerned about its well-being. And he's like, I don't know. Fine, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
Now, did his wife dying, did Emily dying change Roger, or is he always going to be a bad dad?
Man, I look at that line and I think he was always going to be a bad dad, but I don't know. I mean, he certainly
he dragged the hike in and 7 months pregnant, so you really didn't have a concern,
Right.
for the pregnancy or.
So he just loved his wife.
Right.
Never wanted to be a father.
And well, now for all intents and purposes, Ben is the reason she dies. So this is going to be the life-changing event that changes him forever.
Right.
So he's going to resent the child, and now I'm stuck being the sole caretaker to this baby now. Right. But even though this is a Ben episode, throughout the episode, I kind of feel like I get these little ticks towards Jack, because there's a bunch of similarities going on that kind of make me go, wow, it's a lot of connections in metaphoric ways to Jack. You know, we got another drunk dad, uses the term kiddo. You know, it's just a lot of coincidence that way. But yeah, I mean, Roger is just not a good leader, a good dad, a good independent man. But as we go along, we find that Roger but he gets a nice job working for the Dharma Initiative.
Right. So in my opinion, too, this episode now, I look at it, this is going to be the sequel to the new Lost show, which is going to be the Dharma years.
It should be.
I love that.
It should be.
Yep.
Absolutely should be. I told you.
What's that, Jack?
I don't think anyone complained about that.
That's perfect. Everything can be done. There's no reboot, no what happens afterwards.
Yep.
It should be the Dharma years. That would be awesome.
Make it a period piece of the 70s, early 70s. Yeah. Bring in Karen and Gerald DeGroot. Tell us about the Hanso Foundation later on. Tell us how all of it got started. I totally dig that.
You got some great music they could play.
Yep. Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah. They could reunite Geronimo Jackson. It would be awesome.
Nice.
Sure.
It would be awesome. But no, he gets so Roger gets to work for the Dharma Initiative. And Ben gets to grow up on the island and get an education, and apparently it's a top-notch education. So
apparently, even though they don't know how to properly make a child's volcano erupt, that's science there. Top-notch education. No, but you get the feeling that Roger was never going to amount to anything. He's on the island because Horace gave him a job because he needed it. He was down on his luck, which means, whether it was due to his alcoholism or his self-defeatism or whatever, he just was not able to keep a job. And then we see as time goes by, he complains, "Workman, I didn't come all the way out here to be your janitor." And yet Ben's all the way to adulthood, because she tells him, well, as jobs open up, you can put in and apply for those. And here we are all these years later. I'm not sure how many years go by. Right. He's still a workman. He's not been able to advance beyond that.
He was never going to make progress. Okay,
that's right.
That's the key to that. He was never going to make progress.
That's right.
We see Ben celebrate a birthday as a young child, and he has a friend named Annie who makes him these really cute wooden dolls as a gift.
Can I give my theory on Annie? I always thought she was Kate's mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like
because of the name. The name Annie. Yeah. That's what she used when she was with.
That's right.
She used that in Tabula Rasa. Yeah.
It was never answered, but I always thought that.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think happened to Annie? Did she die in the purge? Did she get off the island, or
we don't see her again? So
she ate too many Apollo bars.
Yeah, I always hoped that she got off the island during the exodus prior to the incident, but I don't know. That's just
we'll find out in the Dharma years.
That's right. Nice. Bill is determined to get the Dharma years. Let's champion that.
I'll be your first signature on the petition there, Bill, because that's the script I have in my head is that time period.
Absolutely.
So
what's funny about Annie is I rewatched the commentary. There's a commentary with Michael Emerson and Damon and Carlton on the season 3 DVD set here, and they talk about how I think the volcano is going to be a bigger deal, and Annie is going to be very important. And we never see her again. It's super, as I just mentioned, we finished a rewatch with our family, and so our kids were watching the series for the first time, and we're like, "So what do you think about Annie?" Oh yeah, we're definitely going to see her again. She's going to be a big deal. And so okay, well, we'll have to wait and see, because we wouldn't spoil them on anything. And everybody thought that we were going to see more of her, and nothing.
Yeah, and we just didn't. So
it is one of the great disappointments for me.
She was the one that could have probably been more grounded, and
I disagree. Here's why. I don't think that's a bad idea, but I love with this episode what it does, because it makes us think that Roger, the way he treated Ben, is the reason Ben ended up the way that he did. But then we see in season 5 when Saeed shoots Ben, that it's his taking him to the temple that really he'll never be the same. You know, we see all that. And so there was always some sort of incident. I don't think it was always Saeed. I think there was always some sort of incident that mortally wounded Ben, and he had to get taken to the others. And that's what transformed him to become this killer that he is in this episode. But I do love how they set it up in this episode to make it think like it was his daddy issues that, you know, tipped him at this point. So I don't think, because of that, I don't think Annie would have been able to keep him from going to the dark side.
Maybe that's why they got rid of her, because she just wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, maybe.
But we learned that Richard Albert is around in this time,
and he doesn't age.
That's right. Yeah.
So we learned that he's there, living in the jungle.
Yeah.
Got bad hair.
And Ben is already asking to be part of them. And what we know of them, or what we're assuming them are, is this is where when their kids are in the classroom, the alarm goes off, they hear monster sounds, and they're feeling the hostiles are involved. So now we got like this chaos going on of hostiles, monsters, you know, the fences going crazy and everything. So a lot's going on, but Ben wants out of all of it. He wants away from his father. He saw his mother.
Right.
You know, so
how did he know that was his mother? Like, he'd never seen her before.
He had a picture of
a picture. It had to be something I'd missed. Okay.
When he goes back into the room, he looks at a picture of his dad and his mom.
Oh, yeah.
Right. His dad, the last time his dad smiled.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
But I do like this. I do like the scene where Ben actually kills his dad. I mean, I thought it was well acted. I mean, and it's a hard scene to watch, but I thought the acting was great, because it almost like the dad had some regrets. Yeah, you know what? Next year I'll remember your birthday, and I got to do better.
Yeah.
And Ben's just like, yeah, well, too late. It's too late now.
Right. Nice try, yeah. But
I'll remember your birthday next year when you're 50. I mean, come on. How many years do you need to remember?
Right. It was never his birthday. It was always the day that he killed his wife. So.
Right, exactly. That's the burden that Roger carries, and that's the baggage that gets poured onto the child Ben. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly the phrase that you just said, Bill, is perfect,
right,
because that's what it is. And that one event affected 2 people for the whole duration of their lives. Yep. So how each one of them carrying that pain, yep, and that's what leads them to where they are.
Yeah, and like Jack said too, he's at an age too. He's probably in his 50s by that point. Ben was what, 17? Looked like he was about 45.
I just want to get my driver's license, Dad.
His father's at that age where you look back on your life and you say, you know, I want to change. I want to go back and do it different.
Yeah.
So
of course he probably just was talking. He's probably said that 100 times.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was always wondering, why did Dharma Initiative keep Roger around? What was the point? He was miserable to the people. Mm-hmm. He was a drunk.
They still needed janitors, though.
Yeah, you can get anybody to be a janitor. I just think, why would you keep someone like a small community like that? Why would you want him around?
Maybe they had hope that the Dharma Initiative was going to help change him and unburden him. Maybe they had hope. It just didn't work.
Well, the island made him worse, not better, right? So
right.
Nobody gets fired in Dharmaville. It's not
nobody does. Right.
Namaste.
One-way ticket to the island. Right.
Namaste. Right. But you have to. I mean, realizing that the metaphor of what the Dharma Initiative is, the metaphor part of it again, the Dharma Initiative literally translates, or you could translate it to the start of the Eightfold Path, which is the path to enlightenment. So here we go full circle with that whole idea again. So if poor Roger is there to hopefully maybe let go of these burdens and learn to grow from them and let it go and maybe be a better person from it, it's just not clicking with him. He's just staying stagnant the whole time, and it's just not working. And with the Dharma Initiative, like you said, they're really not going to let anybody go, because to get to your point of your awakening or whatever, it takes as long as it takes. And that line is used in season 6.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
why did it takes as long as it takes to wake up. And Roger just ain't clicking. It's just not.
But he was never going to wake up, right?
No, some people just won't. And that's okay. That's their path.
All right.
That's their path.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to be around him.
No,
No.
he was nasty. He was a very unpleasant drunk and a very unpleasant father.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they saw how he was treating his son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had to. I mean, we see it more in season 5 when we get that revisited again, and we never see him utter anything kind to Ben.
Yeah.
The closest he comes to it is right here, right before Ben kills him.
Yeah. He
Too
finally
late.
woke up and he got killed.
Right. Yeah.
Too late.
I wanted to talk about something. We have. I like how Locke kind of switches gears on Ben, where he goes, "Oh, you're gonna go." He announced to the crowd, "You're gonna go take me to see Jacob."
Yeah.
And then Mikkel comes up, and Locke just starts pounding the crap out of Mikkel, and Ben goes, "Tom," you know.
Right.
And Tom's just
Richard. Yeah.
Richard. And there's like, "Nah, it's okay."
Yeah. I think for a moment, I don't remember what I thought initially, however many years ago was this, 13 years ago. I don't remember initially what I thought. Like, oh, Locke is rid of his father. Look at him go now. He's being,
Mm-hmm.
in hindsight, no, it's just a fleeting moment, but,
Right.
it looks like he might be ready to take on the role. And I do love too, in this scene here where he's like, we're going to go see Jacob. We're doing it right now.
Yeah,
And that again parallels with what he does in season 5. There's so many parallels here with what we're seeing later in the show. And I mentioned earlier how these 2 episodes they reverberate throughout the rest of the series.
They're mirrored,
yeah. And then this is another example of how they really.
But
came back to that.
Locke's motive here in this episode, whether Anthony Cooper is dead or not, he just wants the secrets of the island. He wants to go to Jacob. That's his only. That's all I can see right now. I have my blinders on. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So that is his motive.
Ben tells him, "You're not ready."
That's right. Yeah. And Ben, Ben gets offended when Locke calls him a liar, but half of what he told him in that same conversation was a lie. And when he told him, Richard doesn't go to Jacob, I go to Jacob. That's a complete lie. Like, we don't know it yet. Like, there's so much lie, right?
There was an episode with Juliet. She calls him a liar, and he gets upset by it.
Yeah. Right.
It's like he's a liar. But he doesn't like being called out and all he does is lie.
That's all he does.
But it's like being called out as a liar.
Yeah.
Jerk. I did like how Ben looked shocked when Locke came back with Anthony Cooper's body.
And so did Tom. Tom had that look on his face too, and that was great.
Like, wow, he did it.
Yeah,
finally did it. Oh. Good for Locke there. And then Sawyer returns, and let's see. Sawyer returns to camp, and then is that when he tells Jack about what's going on? Or is that later on?
I tell Saeed first.
Tell Saeed. Yeah. That's right. Tell
about
Saeed
about the tape, and about Juliet being a mole, and she's going to take the pregnant women and all that.
Mm-hmm. Because Locke actually tells Sawyer, which I was shocked, gave him the information because Sawyer. But then Locke said, "Yeah, I'm going back. This is the information you need." And then Sawyer makes a good point. They're not going to believe me. I've already told them that Juliet can't be trusted. And that's what he gives them the tape.
Right. Yeah. And again, going back to if Richard gave Locke that tape, then Locke gave it to Sawyer because he had been told to, not because of any grand scheme that he had, which then begs the question, why did Richard give the tape? And it's not my own theory. I've heard people theorize for years that the others were tired of this experimentation and time being wasted on pregnant women, which goes back to, again, why was this such an issue to Ben? Well, maybe because his mother had died during childbirth, and that was an impact that affected him. I don't know, but I think Richard and the others were tired of, because as we see more in the series, this is not an issue that was always a problem. and it's not really what they're all about. So I can see them going, let's get rid of Ben and all of his issues. We don't need your pregnant women. Let's move on beyond that.
And I think Richard tells Locke that, doesn't he, when he's having the conversation before? I think he tells Locke about this false pregnancy issue that's always up.
Yeah.
And I do like before they go off that Alex comes over to give John a gun and say, "Happy birthday, Dad." Because it's Ben's birthday, and nobody kind of remembered his birthday. So
I do want to bring up a point about Alex giving him the gun, and I'm pretty sure it's this episode. Please tell me I wrote down the right notes for this episode, because I'm into like season 5 now. So once you start watching, you can't stop.
Right.
Okay, in this episode, when Alex gives John the gun, she gives him the gun later, right?
Yep.
Her eyes are dark brown instead of blue.
Oh.
Just catch that next time. Yeah, Alex usually has blue eyes. In this episode, her eyes are dark. Yeah,
I didn't catch it either.
Yeah, dark brown. They're
Good
dark.
catch.
Because I'm crazy. Remember, I'm the insane one. That's why you bring me to the table, for the insanity.
Well, going back to Ben's birthday, is Annie gives Ben a present. Is she the only one that ever remembered his birthday?
It seems like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Alex, I bet. Yeah, seems like
yeah. Well, Alex remembered, but was
and you know why too? I think that may be true, because even now, when Ben is older and we're in present day, he has the dolls and the totems in his hand, and Richard comes in, and Richard's like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Well, you do remember birthdays." Like, he didn't even realize it was Ben's birthday.
right.
And that's the only 2 presents he's ever gotten. So I think everybody's just, it's not.
I agree.
They don't remember their birth.
I thought it was a shout out that Richard doesn't age.
Yeah, well, it was that too, for sure. And again, it gets paid off eventually.
Of course, yeah.
It took them a while, but that's another little nugget they paid off.
Because that was the longest time was like, all right, why does this guy not age? How is he the same? What's going on with Richard? And like you said, we eventually find out. But I do like.
But I think that they just didn't really. Nobody really paid attention to Ben's birthdays. It wasn't a thing. As your leader, wouldn't you be like, we have to celebrate our leader's birthday? Wouldn't it be a celebration?
Everybody, $5 from everybody. Come on.
Right, nothing. Yeah, let's get a Dharma birthday cake. Hello, let's get some Dharma balloons. We'll have a party.
No more Dharma left. Roger drink it all.
So there was no Dharma celebration for that.
Well, then you have Saeed telling the group, they're having a group meeting without Jack, that you can't trust Jack.
Right.
And I like Sun's like going, well, da, 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 da. And that's when Sawyer calls her out, because earlier, a few episodes before that, Sun slaps Sawyer in the face because Charlie tells the truth about how it wasn't the others that dragged her in and knocked her out. It was Charlie and Sawyer who did it. So she slapped. So it was almost like Sawyer going, huh.
Yeah.
You can't.
Everybody knows that Jen was infertile except for Jen.
Right.
He doesn't understand the take. I know. I feel so bad.
Like, what?
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. What are they saying? I heard my name. I don't understand that.
They play the tape, right? They hear Ben's plan on the tape. So what do we think of that?
I think Ben's desperate to look important, and because it means nothing really when you look at it. He has no reason to take any pregnant women at all. Nobody's really doing any testing there anymore. It's all done. I think he just needs to look. He's reaching for something, to look powerful, in control of something. Look what I'm doing. I'm gonna still look like we're intact. It's all just part of his illusion.
Well, we said that you guys were saying that people were getting disgruntled with Ben's leadership, but why is Cindy, who was taken with the kids, why is she? Is it because she's new and she doesn't know anything, or it's just because she doesn't seem to be bothered by it at all?
I don't know.
I've never been able to figure Cindy out, if she had been a Dharma or an other for a long time, or if she was brand new and when 815 crashed. I could go either way on it sometimes. I always thought she was an other because her disappearance seemed odd. It really did, and she seemed to just blend right in and be comfortable with them, but
never seemed to be upset. I mean, when Jack's in the cage and she's like going to the kids and she's like, really, Cindy? And he's like screaming at her. She's like, okay, we'll move on. It just like nothing seemed to phase her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas before she used to be afraid. She used to be, when the others were killing people and grabbing people, she seemed to be, on Annalisea's side.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
but did
But
you just
also-
throw out a Stranger in a Strange Land reference? We can't allow those here.
Oh, come on. That's a good episode. Oh, man. It's a good episode. I like that one.
It's an episode.
It is an episode.
It is.
It's one of them.
It is.
It's one of them.
Indeed.
Turning point. It was a turning point.
Indeed.
But I wasn't sure too, because you get wrapped up in Ben's manipulation, and you're almost wondering, is she going to be like a double agent now, Juliet? Like this is all
Right.
everybody's supposed to hear that tape somehow, and
Yeah, and that added a lot of fun and intrigue to this part of the whole time that Juliet, from one of us all the way to really even into next season, we're still guessing which side is Juliet on, and we could go back and forth. And we had a lot of fun with this with our kids, because like there was one of them that thought they could trust Juliet and the other one didn't, and we had a lot of great discussions night after night, trying to figure her out. That was at times the best part of this season.
The only reason I thought that she couldn't be trusted, I remember at the time, was because Ben showed her that he is in range of his sister, nephew. Mm-hmm. So I think she worried about her. She knows who Ben is. She's one of the few people that has no problem telling Ben who he is. She knows he's not a good person.
Yeah.
So I think she was worried that her sister might be in danger.
Right. And we've seen her flip before. She's flipped back and forth at other times too. So it's very possible she was a double agent towards this season. So
yeah.
But I will say this about the thing with the pregnant women and the pregnancy testing and all this. We learned through 6 seasons that the island, again, is life, death, and rebirth. So now when you go back and you look at the episodes, you can pretty much see in most episodes, all 3 of those topics are touched upon metaphorically or in a roundabout way where we're seeing it literal, but it's not really meant literal, of someone, in those 3 terms are always represented in the episodes. And so that kind of clue and that theme and that thread has always been there. So whether it is literal, but it's there to give us the whole idea of what the island is. So we do always get those nods to pregnancy. I died once, today I came back, life, death, rebirth. Those things are happening all the time. But when we watch it surfacely, we're looking at it so literally that it's easy to say, oh, what do we need all these testing on pregnant women and we got to steal these? Yeah, on the surface, it means nothing. And it means Ben is trying to still pull off his illusion.
Yeah.
But the metaphor part of it is the life, death, and rebirth part of what the island is. It's in every episode.
Yeah, I love that. And that is true for Ben in this episode too. When he pulls his gas mask off in front of Albert, that look on his face is that look of he's just been born in
exactly.
born again, or come into this new life that he is anticipating.
And kind of once you have that idea, and I mean we've watched and rewatched many times, all of us. It's there, and they hint to those 3 words so often in an episode in reference some way that it almost becomes hard to not see it after a while.
Yeah.
So
and then we come to probably I remember at the time it being such a cool, oh my God, what's going on scene.
Finally here, yes.
I know where you're going.
I'm in whack. When are we going to get to it?
At Jacob's cabin, because I remember at the time going, oh my God, what is going on here?
Yay!
This was one of the biggest things online with forums and screenshots, and
it was
huge. It was a huge night. Yeah,
and you had Ben talking to what we think is an empty chair, and is he just manipulating Locke because that's all he does? And then all of a sudden, Locke walks out, and you hear, "Help me!"
But Ben was talking to an empty chair.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
He was faking. He was playing the whole time.
Yeah.
But John still heard something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Ben, it was all a game for Ben. This is all the whole. What, John? You don't see what I see? It was almost bad acting. I think Emerson kind of made it kind of campy. Like
Right. Yeah.
I'm playing this really up. What? You don't see what I see?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like really overacting. And
Yeah.
yep. And he
Yeah,
didn't know until
it's just not coming, Jacob.
when Ben walks out of the cabin, he's like, his jaw is dropped.
Right.
Right.
But for us watching it, we're like, holy crap, stuff's flying around. There was a figure in the chair. We heard something. So to us, we're like, there really is a Jacob. There really is something. So we're not, even though we know Ben is a con man and a liar, wow, we got snowed there for a bit too, because something happened.
Something was
Something happened that was pretty compelling to even all of us. That who did Locke see in the chair? Did Locke see himself? Did he see nothing? Was it know? So as much as you had that idea in your head, what if it was BS? I don't know. That was pretty damn entertaining. That was intriguing.
And we knew that it wasn't Ben that said "help me."
Right. It was a totally different voice.
It was just Ben playing, in his head.
Right. But
you can't blame Locke for that, because Ben has lied to him over and over and over. Why would he believe that? It wouldn't tell him anything started flying around.
Right.
I think Locke even pulls out his gun, doesn't he?
I don't remember. And remember, before we got into the cabin, there was ash all around it.
Right.
The protective ash. So now we're sitting there going, wow, there's why is this? It's protected, you know, and so this had such mystery to begin with of nobody. How come nobody saw this cabin before? How do we not know? There's no roadway to go see him. Nobody else talks to him. This is like only I have the hotline to Santa Claus type of thing, right? I mean, it's crazy, but this ash, oh my God, what is that? And then it's dark, it's disgusting. Why? But it was great. It was so great that we all couldn't stop talking about it the next day.
It was so much fun. I mean, nothing else in the episode mattered except for this scene. Now, Carol's saying that she was in the forums all night, no sleep, screenshots, theories, conjecture. That's what it was. It was
great.
For us.
Yep.
I mean, all the jars, I remember looking at the screenshots of what's in that jar, what's in that one, and the photo or the painting
jars,
of the dog.
There were 6 jars up there.
It was so much fun. The ash, the screenshots of who is that? Is that Christian? Is that Jacob? Is it
yeah. Oh, I wish I could remember all the theories because we got a lot of emails and phone calls, and there was so many different theories, and you're like going, and it was like, yeah, that could be it. And no, of course, 99% of them were wrong, but it was like you sit there and go, well, yeah, like Carol said, there was no sleep that night because they really just messed with our heads.
And then they pay this off again in seasons 5 and 6. We get pretty much all of this answered. We know it was the Man in Black. We know that it was a safe place. That was once the ash was broken, and we find out who the voice.
But Benham does also admit in season 6 that he staged a lot of that
all.
too.
That's right.
But so we take a little bit of the truth, but we make a whole big con on top of it. So that's how Ben plays. That's right. But it was just so amazing.
Yeah. The best liar.
So is Locke special because he heard something? So you sit there and you think, well, okay, so maybe he is important. He heard something Ben didn't hear, or whatever. So really,
which what Ben was worried about the whole time.
Right. He doesn't want Locke to be more special than him. That would be ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
And it reminds me too of what we see in season 6 after Jacob is killed. Some people can see Jacob, his whatever, his ghost or whatever you want to call it, and some people couldn't. And then eventually everybody could, right? And so here's an instance where Locke can hear something and Ben can't. And so that kind of goes on with the theme of the show. Sometimes people can hear things that other people can't.
Yep. Yes.
Because Jacob didn't want Ben to get, I don't think he didn't respect Ben.
Absolutely not. Right. Yep.
That's why when he got cancer, he said, "Nah, sorry. All right, sorry. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a spinal surgeon will fall out of the sky, and I'll give you a chance."
Yeah, and I think too that we hear before they go into the cabin, Ben says to Locke, "You need to turn off your flashlight." Well, why? Well, because Jacob's a lot like you in how he views technology, and that's, I think, true. Like John, got on to Ben a couple of episodes prior. You guys live in these
right.
You have these refrigerators and this electricity, and you don't respect the island.
You're eating chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Eating chicken. And Jacob lives under a foot, and he, sews his own tapestries, and he probably makes his own clothing. And he's also, I think that was actually maybe dumb luck, but a nugget of truth spoken by Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, like, you're right, Ben and Jacob, I don't think really approved of Ben's leadership at all.
No.
Well, I have a question for all three of you guys then. So Ben comes to the island as a child, and again lies. I was born here. I wasn't born here. Whatever. He's just a liar. But the point is, so Ben purges the Dharma Initiative.
Right.
Yep.
Not just his dad. He purges all of the Dharma Initiative, so he could go with Richard and the others, the others in the jungle.
The
hostiles, right? Which the hostiles aren't very hostile, but we'll call them the hostiles because that's what they call them. Okay, so Ben, part of letting go of things on the island is letting go. You have to let go of the things that have been burdening you. So to Ben, was the Dharma Initiative also part of his burden and his pain and his anguish? Or was it just a means to get away from the Dharma Initiative because he felt that he needed to be with the hostiles? Because he tells Richard, take me with you. I want to go with you. And Richard said, you're not ready and all that. So what are your thoughts on him specifically killing not just his dad of the Dharma Initiative, but all of them, including Horace?
Well, he says for the purge, the purpose was one side had to go.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and on that,
the hostile side. Not that they were hostile, but that's the side he chose.
Right. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And on that day, it's the only time, unfortunately, we ever see Ben in a Dharma jumpsuit. So we have nothing to compare it against. But at least on that day, he did not have a Dharma patch on his jumpsuit.
Right.
So
He did.
Either he never wore one, or what I think is he chose to take that off, knowing his dad never looked his way anyway, and his dad wouldn't observe that he didn't have a patch on. But it was his way of saying, I'm not with the Dharma Initiative. I'm
That's a good point.
Separating myself.
So I feel like he was never part of the Dharma Initiative anyway. Right. Because even though he was brought in as a child to be part of that whole wonderful exploratory scientific, Buddhist way of, combining, spiritual and science, and they're going to make a perfect world and perfect people and all that wonderful. He was never part of that. He never, became one with that.
He doesn't see a perfect world. He sees his dad.
Right.
So he's like this great society and this is what we have.
And I still have him. Yeah.
Yeah, so plus we
make peace with the hostiles.
Yeah.
But he thinks his mother is with the hostiles.
Exactly.
He thinks that his mother's in the jungle.
He came out of the woods too, just as Richard came out.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing that gets paid off, right? Because Alpert says, "Do you see someone who's dead but didn't die on the island?" Like that's almost a throwaway line, but has such a rich payoff with Richard later on.
Yes.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. But then we come down to where Ben shows, you want to see where I came from? You want to see where I came from? It takes him to the mass grave, and we see all the Dharma Initiative people there just thrown in a big hole. And then I think as they're going back and forth, I think Locke knows that Ben is going to do him harm, but Locke gets shot, and boom, down goes Ben. Luckily, like you said, Daryl, he doesn't have a kidney, which saved his life. And
way to go,
Ben wants to know what Jacob said. Now, if Locke was not going, if he didn't think Locke was going to die, would he have asked him that question? Because now he's admitting that he didn't hear what Jacob said.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important for us to know that. He thought John was going to, I think he thought John was going to die. Yes. So let's find out that last word. Let's find out that last take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if he knew John wasn't going to die, I don't think he ever asked him that question.
Probably not.
Because now he's giving, because Ben's all about information. Like you said, they have the files on everybody. That's how he's always one up on everybody. He doesn't like to give out information to people on his his backstory or background. So I don't think there's any way he would let John Locke know that Jacob didn't talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Totally agree.
But now he knows the truth. John heard something.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we surprised
So
he
who
didn't?
was it?
We're surprised that Ben didn't double tap John at that point.
He leaves it open and says, "Well, hopefully the island can save you now." And you know, Smokey comes along in the next episode. Spoiler alert. And
was John waiting? Was Ben waiting to see if the island would save John?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of think he just left him thinking he would die, but
yeah.
I don't know.
It's like those classic James Bond movies with the villain talking too long, you know? Just shoot him. Stop talking.
And how perfect for John to die in the pit with the rest of the purge. I'm purging everything, including John. They're all in the pit together. I don't really care.
That's why he was a dead man to Ben.
Right.
That was it.
Why did they never cover the hole? I mean, just
the stench must have been horrendous for the longest time. Yeah.
So, I know. Carol has a question.
Okay, Carol. So in the end, was it Jacob or Men in Black who spoke to John? One or the other.
Yeah.
Whoever was in communication, it was one or the other. Yeah. Because he was in search of Jacob. Jacob knew of John. Right. But we do know that, John ends up being connected with Man in Black. So
right.
In hindsight, says who needed help? Man in Black.
Yeah, I think it was Man in Black.
I do. I agree. I agree.
Just like 100%. I think it was Man in Black that was Walt. Like I just said, I mean, this was all Man in Black's manipulating John to try to get him to be his own loophole, right? And so,
well, he's like, I think one of you mentioned it earlier that when Locke sees a smoke, he sees something beautiful.
Right.
Everyone else sees things from their past that is, like Echo saw things that he didn't, would not like to remember, and just so he saw things that were evil. But John, I saw something beautiful. I saw the heart of the island, stuff like that. So that was right away. Smokey was in, he was his loophole, as you said, Karen, earlier. So poor John, never had a chance.
But it's really Tola Ghost Walt. So
it's one of the greatest things, the greatest lines coming up.
Yeah. But anything else with this episode you guys wanted to discuss?
Well, just to put a tag on that final scene with Walt, or whoever that is. Well, okay, but for all intents and purposes, that Walt did not let John die in the pit. He gave him fortitude and pushed him to get up. And You're not done. You have more work to do. Get up. So if anything, Taller Ghost Walt got him out of the pit. Helped him get out of the pit.
Only to infuriate us is when he throws that knife into Naomi, which is great conversation that we're not talking about today, but that was interesting. I mean,
Smokey still needed Locke, so he needed him.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like, remember back in season 2? Was it season 2 or 1 when Smokey is pulling when they're coming back from Black Rock with the dynamite, right? And Locke is getting pulled into the pit. Like, what would have happened? It makes you wonder, like, what would have happened? Because he was telling him, let me go, it'll be fine.
He wanted to go, exactly.
Right.
He wanted to go. He wasn't afraid, and what he felt was that he was connected to it, and he would be fine. Just let me go.
Yeah.
Jack,
even though he showed fear, he did show fear.
Right.
He did.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was ultimately like, I think this is what I need to do, type of thing, But then again, John kind of makes some stupid choices. Even I'm going to jump ahead for a split second, but when we get to season 5, when he's going to go to the orchid and he jumps down the well to move the wheel and everything. Yeah. Okay. Sawyer's like, why don't you just let us lower you down there? And John's like, no, where would the fun in that be? So John's just going to just jump down and he gets hurt. So John doesn't think really clearly all the time or rationally.
Really he doesn't think more than 1 or 2 steps ahead where
exactly. He just knows he wants to get somewhere. He's not a clear-headed thinker. He doesn't think of all the avenues.
And
that's why he just went through the blow up everything that'll get us off the island tour.
Right. But he did that. Remember, the only thing I feel John knew he needed to do, even though he bumbled and stuff along the way, is he still knew that nobody was supposed to leave until they were ready to leave. And that was the only thing he knew to do, was to try to stop them and try to keep them. Because even when they did leave, he was the one that had to go back and get them to come back. Because they left before they were supposed to leave. So.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's just he
couldn't do it correctly.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and plus,
the motive was right. The idea and the motive was right.
But I always point out, did he have the right to keep people on the island?
He felt that was his job, because he knew that the island was providing them all with something positive. But is that his job? Because in season 2, he even tells Jack when Michael runs away to go find Walt, and Jack wants to go bring him back, and he's like, who are we to tell him he's got to come back?
Yeah,
right.
So we kind of get both sides of that from John, but ultimately John did know that, especially Jack, don't leave until you're ready to leave.
Right.
Yeah, and Jacob kind of brings us full circle in the final season when he says, I brought you all here and Sawyer gets all mad and, why did you take us away from our lives? And he's like, what lives? What did you have?
You weren't happy.
Come on, man. You were running from the law. You had daddy issues. He kind of takes down.
You weren't happy. You were all flawed. You had problems.
I brought you here to work with a clean slate, to work through all of those issues.
Right.
Take as much time as it needs, right?
But my issue was
it takes as long as it takes.
Right. My issue was, though, he didn't give them a choice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right. But it's not like he saved them from, this utopia.
No.
Or took them from a utopia. Rather.
Because a lot of them did die.
Yeah. Yeah.
But dying is part of the island adventure. Dying is part of the island adventure. Because you got to die to become reborn.
Everybody dies sometimes, kiddo.
That's right.
Anyway, I thought these were two fantastic, like I said earlier, two fantastic episodes. I could watch them again. That's how good they were. And I thought this was a great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Great job, guys. Thanks, Bill, for jumping in the last second. If you guys, I'm sorry, if you're looking for Ralph, he had a dental issue. So I should have said that in the beginning. But anyway, anything else you guys want to say?
Get well, Ralph.
Yeah.
Get well. Everybody stay safe. And tomorrow, when you probably play this back on YouTube, it will be the 10th year anniversary of the series finale of Lost. That is the day that Lost broke up with me and all of you. But
did it really break up? We're still talking about it.
No, we're still talking about it. Right. So we're still having our love affair, I guess, right? We're still having it.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for Lost even beginning, we wouldn't be all together now. And I'm very grateful to all of you, as always. And Daryl, it was nice meeting you in person, kind of for the first time, even though we're friends already.
I know, right? No, it's great. And I was just, before you hopped on, Bill and I were chatting because we haven't seen each other since we were on Oahu 6 years ago. And Jack, it's been a long time since I've seen and chatted with you as well. So this has been great. Thank you, Jack, for having me on.
No problem. We'll definitely have you on again. This was fun.
Yeah.
Great.
And Carol, thanks for being in the chat.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
There are other people on here, but nobody wanted to talk, so that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
Lurking.
Us, you just can't shut up. That's all.
Yeah. This was a great chat, and I guess we're out of here.
Namaste.
Have a good night.
Bye.